Welcome to Allergy Dragon's Lair. My name is Martha Morgan. I'm your host. I'm a specialty diet and allergy chef and someone that lives with celiac disease, couple food allergies, and alpha gal. But my biggest claim to fame is raising a child with over 30 food allergies and celiac disease to adulthood. Okay, it's Allergy Dragon's Lair, and what do I love to do? I love to talk about food. I love to talk about celiac disease, food allergies, and today's no exception to that rule. But before we jump into this episode, a quick disclaimer. The views expressed here on our show are the personal opinions and life experiences of our guests and ours. We are not healthcare providers or doctors. Please seek advice from your healthcare professional for any diagnoses or changes to your healthcare plan. So I have a new friend here named Meg. She is the creator of Meg's Magical Morsels, and she is the Yes Chef in residence for August, I believe. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
So without further ado, Meg, thank you so much for taking the time to do the podcast. And can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So, my name's Meg. Like she said, I'm the owner of Meg's Magical Morsels here in Louisville, Kentucky. I have been in the restaurant industry since I turned 16, but I've owned Meg's Magical Morsels since 2023. I focused on all kinds of different nostalgic baked goods and sweet treats, including some allergen-friendly options because I have allergies myself.
And your Yes Chef in residency will be coming up in August, and we'll definitely dive more into that. But I want to know a little bit more about Meg. So you and I both share that we have food allergies and celiac disease, I think is what you told me. Can you kind of go into like what your food allergies and celiac disease, all that?
Yeah, so I have celiac disease and I have been, I like to call exceeding with celiac disease for the past about 16 years. I also have an anaphylaxis allergy to corn as well as other food allergies to some different fruits, about six different fruits.
Okay. Celiac disease. So I think I'm a little bit, a few more years on you. So I was like 2009 when I got diagnosed with celiac disease. I think I probably had it probably since I was about 11, was when I started having a lot of gastro issues. And I had my gallbladder out when I was 14. So I was misdiagnosed until I was about 33. I didn't present typical. I don't know like what your thing was, but mine was like my failure to thrive was like me 400 plus pounds and five miscarriages and things like that. So mine was not what they consider the typical failure to thrive. So how was your story about, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed, it would have been either end of 2010 or early 2011. But so that was my freshman year of college, but I know I had been living with it for all of high school at the very least and had gone to so many doctors and things, and they were just like, no, it's just stress or anxiety. And I'm like, no, it's not normal to have all of these gastro issues on an everyday basis. Um, so I did it myself. I cut myself off of gluten for 3 months and I was like, no, see, I told you. And then I learned the hard way that you have to be eating gluten to test positive for celiac disease on that blood test. So I had to be miserable for a few months to start re-eating gluten to get that positive celiac diagnosis.
But yeah, that sucks for like having that transition. I was 33. It was bad enough with kids. But I mean, I don't think there's a great time, but like college, like that's pretty hectic because you're becoming an adult and you're having to like really do the adult things. Plus, here you go. That's a lot to take in. Um,
Yeah, it was. I definitely relied on, well, this was before I knew I also had a corn allergy. So I was relying on tortilla chips and tortillas and all the things, which caused all kinds of other issues when I realized I was also allergic to corn.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, corn is really hard. I mean, it is just a hard allergy. All of them are hard. That's not to downplay anybody's food allergy. Not saying somebody's life is harder than others, but corn and soy and wheat, those three things like are very hard because they're pretty much in everything. People just don't understand how much it's in it. I'm glad that you got diagnosed like that and persevered at such a young age too, because I know I kept getting told, it's you're fat, you need to lose weight. I mean, point blank, that's pretty much what they told me. Well, everything would be fine if I just lost weight, like you'll be fine. So for you to be at such a young age and be able to advocate for yourself, that says a lot. It really does.
You. I had a lot of the same reaction of just lose weight and you'll be fine. But I'm a very stubborn person. So if I know that something is not right, I'm gonna fight until I figure it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I didn't even know celiac disease existed until later on to even think that that was a possible cause. So yeah, I mean, because you got diagnosed close to the same time frame close to the same time frame I did. I was just a few more years ahead of you, maybe. But it's amazing how much information like people understand what celiac is to a certain degree. Like they know it's a thing. They know it's a real thing. Well, most people do. I won't. We'll go. It's a little negative, but at least people have heard of gluten-free or celiacs to a certain extent. They may not understand what it is, but yeah, when I first got diagnosed, they're like, "What?" You know, like people are like, "What in the heck is that?" And it's just amazing within those 5 years after 2009 to like 2015-ish, whenever it became a fad diet all of a sudden, you know, like that was just 6 years. Like pe that's not that long of a span. So it's definitely interesting to see how it's grown over the 20 plus years I've been in the food allergy spectrum, just in general.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of glad, not that, gluten-free fad diet is the way to go, but it definitely, I saw an increase of availability in products and things like that when that happened, and was thankful that there was some more knowledge about what gluten-free living was, so that there was more options out there for us.
Hmm. That's true. It definitely brought it about. But the only bad thing with the fad diet is now you still have that question on is it a lifestyle choice or is it because you have an allergy and or celiac disease? Like they, you know, because they
Right.
kind of group those in together. And it's like, you know, it shouldn't make a difference. That's my
It
whole thing.
doesn't.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it shouldn't make a difference. We're trying to change that. And you definitely are trying to change that, in my opinion. So I honestly have not had any of your food. So be that as it may. But people will ask me, they're like, you have these people on here, but you haven't ate their food. And I'm like, well, you know, it just happens sometimes. Just because you're gluten free or you're corn free doesn't mean I can eat it, you know, type of thing, because I have other allergies. But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't be an awesome choice for somebody else, you know, an awesome, safe choice. So that's why I talk to many people about food allergy stuff. What does Meg's Magical Morsels mean to you? Why did you create it?
So it started out of a love for baking. I was baking standing on a kitchen chair with my mom, box mix brownies at 4 years old. And started to learn, as I got older to make things from scratch and things like that. And I noticed as I got older, there were a lot of things that I ate as a child that weren't out anymore. Like they just weren't, I guess, popular enough for bakeries to carry. And with food allergies, there was a lot of things that I liked that I couldn't eat myself. So I actually started my bakery not offering any gluten-free products at all. And quickly realized, I was like, oh, there's not enough of a market for that. And I quickly realized that that wasn't the case. So now I focus on those nostalgic sweet treats, but specifically on creating ones that are safe for anyone with celiac to eat as well.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you. I know you say gluten friendly because I did check out your website and that kind of thing. So what does that mean to you? Gluten friendly? Because like, do you use wheat flour at all, or do you just straight gluten free?
So I do have products that contain gluten in my kitchen. So I utilize the word gluten friendly. I actually stole that a little bit from Walt Disney World. I was part of their allergy team when I worked there as a manager for 4 years and helped kind of revamp some of their allergy processes in their resorts. So when I started myself, I really wanted to be upfront that I was gluten friendly, that there was gluten in my kitchen. However, I bake everything from its separate ingredient bins from a separate time. Everything is like quadruple sanitized, and then everything is baked and sealed before any gluten comes back into my kitchen. So I call it gluten friendly because I'm on the same air system as gluten and have that gluten in the kitchen. But I have multiple customers that buy from me on a weekly basis with celiac. I can obviously eat it as well. So I always tell people, I want you to ask me all the questions you can possibly ask because I want you to make the decision for yourself of what you think is safe. Because I've gone to places before that claim gluten free, but then they used a salt shaker that they used with something else, and that's enough to get me sick. So I always, recommend people ask all of the questions until you feel comfortable.
Yeah, no, and I think that you have to be completely transparent. And I saw the gluten friendly, and I always just because of the term, it can mean so many different things to people. So, and I always am like that with people too. I love to hear you say ask the questions because I'll have people come up to me and they'll ask me 500 questions, and I don't care because I would ask the same questions, you know? Like I think truly anybody in this space that's serving the food. If you get upset at people asking you questions on how it's safely done, then you need to not be in this space. And I have met a few of them in my time.
Unfortunately,
So
I can say the same.
that you're willing to have those conversations with people is just really huge, in my opinion. And that, everybody's level of safety is a little bit different. I don't have any gluten in my house at all, or any in my kitchen, just because I've become so sensitive over the years. I used to be able to bake with gluten, and I can't now. I had to like remove myself from a regular kitchen, which was very sad for me. I hope it does not happen to you. I was wearing full PPE like before it was cool. It's in the hospital kitchen because I used to run a hospital kitchen. We would fry chicken. Okay, so flour is everywhere, right? And I was starting to have issues with that. And I was like, what am I going to do? So before COVID happened, I would be in the kitchen in full PPE with a full like lid and like the whole gown and everything because it really affects me in the air like that. I'm not eating it at all, but I would still have a reaction, not as bad as if I ate it, but it's so crazy how sensitive I have gotten as I've gotten older. And I think part of it is I say I'm 50, so I'm up there. I'm also going through perimenopause and menopause, and I'm learning more and more that people that are going through menopause, women that are and they have celiac disease or food allergies like us, are developing more or having more sensitivities, which suck. I digress. Like I said, that was a side quest. But I did when I first started this, I would have like both things in the house and I'd be very, very careful because I didn't want to like restrict my kids because they weren't celiac yet.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say it's interesting you say that because I used to be able to bake not wearing all the PPE. And now if I'm baking anything with gluten, I'm wearing a mask and the gloves and all of that stuff. And I have noticed like when I'm filming content of me baking, I try not to wear a mask because unfortunately there is a negative connotation to PPE. It can just be to protect someone with an immune disease or to prevent you from an allergy, but people see it and think you're sick. So in like my content, I try not to wear that. And then I notice like I can feel it in my joints and my skin and all of the things afterwards. And it's gotten worse as I have gotten older.
No, that sucks for you. I'm sorry. But I have seen that trend. Just because like from the creative standpoint of being a baker and being a chef and that kind of thing, like I thrive in the kitchen. And so even if I couldn't eat it, and everybody would be like, how can you do this? Like do these things without, because if you taste your food, right? I mean, most people are going to taste your food. So I would cook up to this, I would taste up to the point that then I would add something that I was allergic to. So I would have a good idea where my stream point was. And that's what usually freaked everybody out. Like we would make like hot, predominantly 90% from scratch at the kitchen or at the hospital. So I was making chicken pot pie, got my broth and all this other stuff and the vegetables and the chicken and all that and stuff. And then before I added the roux, I tasted where I was at. Obviously, I couldn't taste, the pastry and all that. One time I got sidetracked because somebody's asking Martha, what do I need to do? And I'm doing something else. And all of a sudden I forgot that I had tasted it. I had already put the roux in. I put it in my mouth and I went, like it touched my mouth and I was like, oh, this is good. And then I went, oh, fit. Because it was
Yeah.
in my mouth. And my boss, my direct boss at the time, he had come into the kitchen and he was asking, and I went, he actually heard me go, oh, fit with this in his mouth. And it was his favorite story to tell. And he goes, she was sick for like 3 days. And I went, like, I go rinsing my mouth out, trying not to, get anything in my system. And I was about 33, I think, when I did that. And that's when 35 happened because we can go start going through a period. And it's with celiac disease too, you can go into early menopause. So about 35 is when I started really having all my perimenopause stuff, which sucks because I'm 50 and still not considered menopause yet. So I was like, that might be TMI, but I don't know. I feel like with celiac disease, if you have it, we just talk about all the gross things because it's all part of the life of it
Yes.
anyway. Okay, that was a good side quest. I learned a lot. Thank you very much. So with Meg's Magical Morsels, what kind of things do you offer? Because I will say when it comes to your social media marketing and some of the things that you're doing, it's hilarious. Like it's awesome. It's very nerdy and geeky to a certain degree. And I say that in completely positive way because I'm a big nerd and geek. So there's been some things that you've had that I have thought were amazing, like marketing wise, like the some of the parties and that kind of thing. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about those as well?
Yeah, so So besides just the baking it for markets and custom orders and parties and things like that, I also host cupcake decorating classes for kiddos. I do cupcake decorating experiences as well as birthday parties for kids. And all of those I offer in gluten-friendly options as well. One of my favorite ones I like to talk about is my cupcake decorating experience for adults, which is called Chaos Cupcakes and Caffeine. So I have had the privilege of actually cooking for Chef Gordon Ramsay during my time at Disney World. And so I got to kind of learn it from talking to him, kind of just the fun, like, I mean, he calls people an idiot sandwich. And that's not something you get to actually do as a chef. That's TV chef. So this is a class kind of inspired by that idea. We do all kinds of fun cupcake decorating to a theme, but then there's also like think minute to win it challenges and we, insult each other and it's a whole lot of fun.
Like I said, I don't know how you think of it, but some of those are just so incredibly cute. So definitely follow Meg for all of the information about her classes and that kind of thing. Do you cook predominantly corn-free with everything since you are anaphylactic to it?
In my powdered sugar, there is cornstarch and things like that. Mine is an interesting allergy. It is based on the heating of the corn and the expansion of the corn, the protein in the corn is what affects me as it expands. So I can have corn in things that is not heated. Like I don't eat it myself, but I can bake with it. So primarily any of the baked goods are going to be corn free. And I'm never like adding cornstarch, things like that. But like my frosting would have a little bit in it just because of that powdered sugar. But mine's weird. Like I can't be, so close to someone who is heating corn of any kind, or that's when I start to go into anaphylaxis.
Yeah. No, I've heard of that too. I've been asked before if I was going to be cooking with the corn and that they were okay with it if it was after the fact, like it wasn't going to be cooked at there or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. But I had never really heard that much about it until that event and then a couple other people and now you. So it's always interesting. You learn something
Yeah.
new every day. How excited are you for your Yes Chef in residency? We'll go move on to that.
I am so excited. I just turned in all of my programming classes and some of my ideas to program the space during my residency hours. And I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing a class about coffee and like coffee pairings and how to brew the perfect thing of coffee because I also offer coffee syrups with my business and I'm really passionate about it. I'm going to be doing a living with celiac class. And it's that one's more so we're going to taste some things, but it's more so about knowing what questions to ask when you have celiac and you're going to restaurants and things like that. And I'm also going to be doing one about baking breakfast because I'm in August, so it's back to school time when we're all scrambling around trying to prep. So kind of some make ahead breakfast that you can have. So either going to work or going to school is a little bit faster in the morning.
Awesome. Those sound good. Question, as far as your training, other than working at Disney and that kind of thing, where else have you worked?
So I have a little bit of a different culinary background than a lot of people. I actually got my college degree was in elementary education. And then after that, I realized I really missed the kitchen. So I tried to go to culinary school and I got turned away by 10 different culinary schools because of my airborne food allergies. They said it was a liability issue, so I said I was going to find a different way to get into the kitchen. So I started as a front of house manager, and so I spent some time at Kentucky Kingdom here in Louisville. I did Olive Garden. I was a manager for Starbucks for a while, but the big chunk of it was at Walt Disney World. And so that's kind of, I was a front of house manager, but I inserted myself in the kitchen as often as I could. And I had some really amazing chefs who took me under their wing and mentored me, which is how I kind of learned more about the food science perspective of it. Because, like you talked about earlier, you can't always taste what you make up after a certain point with food allergies. So it was learning about, okay, I know this works because of the science behind it. So I got to learn a lot of that. And then from there, I started my own business.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think I come from this school standard of the fact that you didn't necessarily have to have a degree to be a chef type of thing. I actually held my first chef role without a degree because I was interning at that place and it was like one of the first jobs that, like the guy they were making bets on when I was going to leave because I was like the only girl in the kitchen. And it was like, well, how long is this girl going to last? And blah, 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 blah. And we're not going to help you, different things like that. 6 months later, I had his job. There's ways to learn. And I've met people that have gone to CIA and I can outcook them. So I really don't necessarily think that you have to have the best education. I think life education is incredibly important. And understanding spices and understanding acid and salt and how those all work together are incredibly important. I'm anaphylactic to chocolate. I've never tasted any of my chocolate recipes. That's always kind of unnerving as a chef, but I got used to it, like, because I understand, like you said, the science, and I'm like, this should be good. But I always like, well, still, it's nice to have the confirmation that, oh, this is really good, or it's really rich, or it's this. I was like, I want it to taste like this. Does this taste like that? And then another side quest. You know Annie of Annie Mae's? She was a
Yes.
teacher beforehand, so that you made me think of her when you were like, I was a teacher. So I was like, oh, okay. And then she opened it up, her business after just, and she always wanted to have a bakery. So anyway, I'm good friends with Annie too. But anyway, made me think of that. And I was like, teachers and then baking. I'm like, those are all stressful jobs. Like with those, like,
Stressful,
I think that
multitasking, all the things.
exactly. So it makes perfect sense, honestly, to have teachers come and become bakers or restaurateurs or things like that. It really does. And they have to really deal with a lot of stuff. So I think it makes sense. I love the fact that you're doing the celiac class. And my problem is I go with the spectrum of everything. Like I have such a big spectrum that I follow for myself personally. So when I start teaching, like sometimes it's hard for me to like hone in on a specific thing. So I love the fact that you're going to do that with the six. Do you eat out much?
I really, really don't. If I'm going to eat out, I have to make sure I'm not doing anything for like a week afterwards. Unfortunately, I'm so sensitive that like someone touches the silverware roll they give you with a hand with the gluten, I'm going to be sick for 3 days afterwards. I have a couple restaurants that I like semi-trust, but it's not a weekly occurrence kind of thing.
I understand that. I still have a couple restaurants that I somewhat trust as well. But yeah, it's scary. And unfortunately, we were talking about it. I don't know how much of that's going to end up in this episode, but we were talking about as we age, both of our experiences, we've become more sensitive. I'm sure some of our listeners have experienced that as well. I totally get that. And my last restaurant that I had said that I like felt safe in, where I didn't even like second guess anything, which is stupid. Like that's I think the biggest thing is us becoming complacent when we do find a place that is safe and knowing the people really well. Is I got glutened and it was my first time I had been glutened for a long time and I actually passed out. I had never experienced that. And then I go searching and researching and it was like 25% of celiacs experience this. And I was like, okay, did I need to be that part? Like why? And I guess it's because of becoming more sensitive as we get older. Yeah, I think my biggest thing is complacent, becoming complacent. I was like, you just cannot ever become complacent.
I recently had that. They have started adding gluten removed wheat to a lot of the things that are labeled gluten free, which I also have a wheat allergy, so that's not safe for me. And so I became complacent and got something that I thought was okay, and I had gotten it like 100 times before, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we changed the recipe." As I'm like, I'm not okay. I was like, I wish you guys would put like a little disclaimer on there, like we changed this recipe. But so now I ask, even if I ate there, last month, I'm gonna ask all the questions again.
Yeah, and you really do have to. I don't care how long you've been a celiac. I don't care how long you've had food allergies. We all have that moment where we become complacent, I think, and you just have to constantly keep fighting yourself to not become complacent. And as annoying as we become, there's a reason we're being that annoying because we cannot become complacent. Get to the point where I get so frustrated, I just don't really want to like have all the conversations. And I'm sure you've experienced this too because you know everything that can go wrong in the back. It's like, do I even want to deal with that stress today? Like, I don't want to. Like, I just don't want to.
No, I 100% feel that. I'll just be like, it's not worth it today. It's just not. I'll go make myself something at home.
Yeah, and it's so bad to say like we become a shut-in, but it's not really. I mean, I don't feel like me personally, I don't feel like my life is that bad. Like people will be like, "Oh," and I'm like, I guess I could make it that bad. And I think I did have my moments like when I first got diagnosed, I was really upset and I run a support group with my one of my friends. And we're celebrating our third anniversary in July. Definitely you should come if you ever get a chance. But it's the last Tuesdays of every month and we do it at the Gardner Lane Shopping Center at Rainbow Blossom. But we actually had it for at my Yes Chef because it was my last hours there, and we had somebody and it brought had somebody come to the meetup, and they are newer to this way of life and was talking about how they felt. And I hadn't really thought about in a long time how I felt. And I was like, no, it's valid. You should be mourning. You should be mad. You should be, it's just like somewhat of a death. And I hate to be like, oh my gosh, it's like a death, but it is that part of your life is gone. Like the not checking labels, not doing this, not being complacent. That side is gone. So you really should kind of mourn it, and you should be kind of mad, but don't stay there forever.
For sure. There's grief when you can't eat things anymore, and then you're like, oh, I found this one thing, and then it goes off the market, and you feel that grief a little bit all over again. But yeah, like I mean, also, when I first started, I was always really hesitant. Like I still wanted to go out to eat with friends, but I didn't want to be the weird person like asking all the questions. So I would bring my own food, which is a whole nother struggle of they question why did you bring food to a restaurant kind of thing, and you're like, well, because I can under the Americans with Disabilities Act because I have celiac disease, but that's also awkward conversations to have too.
Our life is just awkward, basically, is how it becomes. And you just have to learn how to deal with the awkwardness. I like that, how you're like, that's another awkward question. That's true. I don't say that there's necessarily a one size fits all perfect answer for how we have to live it. I think you just have to figure out your way. And I think the way to do that is to talk to people like what we're doing today, meeting people, and you teaching, having awesome classes, with decorating gluten-friendly items and showing people that like things don't have to be negative. We can still have fun with it. Whatever life hands you, you can make it better. You can make cupcakes.
Yes.
I will say this about the Yes Chef experience for me. Everybody was really great to work with. It was really awesome, and I think you're going to really love it. I didn't want it to end, I'll be honest. I thought it was just so much fun. I guess we'll go ahead and start closing this down. The ending question is always if you have anything you want to say that was not covered, and or if you want to leave an ending thought.
Yeah, I know you had said at one point people reach out to you with questions all the time. Again, not a doctor, can't give medical advice, but I am more than happy. Anyone that is like jumping into having celiac disease or living with it and just wants a sounding board or a friend to voice frustrations or grief or anything about going through the process, I would love to be that person for you, because I had the opportunity to have that when I first got diagnosed. So feel free to please always reach out with questions or just, hey, I'm frustrated. I can't find X, Y, or Z that I really want, because I might be able to tell you where to find it.
Awesome, awesome. It's always good to have more than one celiac friend. That's the way I look at it. So thank you again, Meg, for taking the time to be magical yourself and doing what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I'll be having all the links below for you to get a hold of Meg and find out about her magical morses. Follow her online and all that good stuff. If anything resonates with you, please make sure to review us. You can listen to all of our podcasts on all the major platforms. Share, like, review, all that good stuff, and we will talk to y'all later. Bye.